Do you believe that our loved ones who have passed on have the ability to communicate with us or even leave us messages, whether it's in a visual form, such as an apparition, or maybe something as subtle as a scent that we associate with them, such as perfume, or maybe pipe tobacco, or something similar, or even possibly leaving us little items around the home that would remind us of them, that are completely inexplicable as to how they got there. Well, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a good friend, or even a beloved pet, many people around the globe have experiences just like these. So I want to ask you, do you believe this is possible, and has it ever happened to you? Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome to you as well. I'm Princess Rainy Cloud, and this channel is dedicated to all things that are strange, unexplainable, and sometimes downright creepy. Well, as you can see from the intro, today we're going to talk about experiences of contact from those that we love that have passed on. Now, throughout my life, I have had things like this happen to me off and on, and it's really something that I question, I wonder about. So today I wanted to share an experience with you that happened to me after my mother passed away. Back in March of 2012, my mother died, and she had become very ill that previous January, and so over the course of about 2 months, it progressively got worse. She died from complications of COPD. And I had something happen to me that was just so far out of the realm of normal that it still leaves me wondering just what the heck happened. I was living in Southern California at the time, and I had been driving back and forth to visit her as much as I could. I would take time off, and my younger sister lived in the area, so I knew she had someone close to her, but I wanted to be there as a support and spend time with her because I knew she was going through a lot. She had been hospitalized and had to have surgery, and then eventually she was moved to a convalescent facility where she was hoping to recover and then return home. And unfortunately, that did not happen. She never was able to regain her strength, and her health rapidly deteriorated. She was about 78 when she passed away. I had only been home for maybe a day or two when I got a message from my younger sister telling me that my mother had passed away. And this was early morning on a Friday, March 2nd. So I immediately made plans, got in the car the very next day on that early morning, Saturday, and drove up to my mom's house. She had given me a key and gave me permission to just make myself at home, even stay in her room, because she knew I had just gone through an extensive spinal surgery just months prior to that, and I was still in a state of trying to recover. And she had a brand new mattress, and it was just very, very comfortable. So she had always told me, just make yourself at home. So I drove back up and let myself into her apartment. And then later on, my eldest sister flew in to be with us as well. Well, I looked around her apartment and I was just kind of assessing the whole situation, because I knew not only were we there to mourn my mom and to give each other support, but I also knew that we were going to have to take care of her belongings and figure out just what to do with them. And as I made an assessment, I noticed, oddly, my eyes were drawn to her dresser, and there was a singular little push pin laying on top of the dresser. And I remember making a mental note of this and said, you know what, you better make sure you put that somewhere safe so you don't end up inadvertently knocking it off onto the floor, into the carpet, and then, God forbid, step on it, because that would really, really hurt. So it was interesting that I noticed that, and I zeroed in on that little push pin. But my sister ended up arriving. She flew in from Arkansas at the time, and we all kind of got together later on that evening, had dinner, reminisced a little bit, went through some pictures, and then because it was just so emotionally taxing and draining, we decided to go to bed early. Well, I offered my eldest sister my mom's room, and she said, no, you go ahead. You'll probably be more comfortable. I'm perfectly happy on the couch, which my mom did have a very comfortable couch. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll sleep in there. During the night, I awoke to a sharp pain in the bottom of my foot. And I just got chills just talking about this. Anyways, I sat up in bed, like just startled, because it was sharp. It was one of those like, oh my God, I felt like I got stabbed in the bottom of my foot. And I sat up in bed really quick, and I turned on the light, and I jumped off the bed and kind of sat down at the end of the bed and was examining my foot because it was hurting so bad. And as I looked really closely, I could see a red, like a prick mark. And I thought, what in the world happened? And, first you're going through the files of your mind going, what could this have possibly been? And, was it a spider? No, it wasn't a spider. It was a singular, almost like the shape of the end of a sharp pencil or something like that. But it was definitely red. There was definitely a physical mark, and I could not, thankfully it didn't draw blood, but it was a sharp enough pain that it woke me from a sound sleep. Well, as I'm sitting at the end of the bed in front of the dresser, I happened to look up and I see that push pin sitting there, and I thought, oh yeah, I still got to put that away. But all of a sudden I thought, I put the two together, and I thought, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like someone had poked me in the bottom of the foot. Not hard enough to draw blood, but hard enough to wake me up and, really jar me awake. It hurt that bad. And I thought to myself, what on earth happened? And I started thinking, well, oh my goodness, is it possible that my mother would have poked me with that? I couldn't understand what had actually happened. But when these types of things happen, you're like, what is going on? And nothing made sense. But I obviously had a physical sign that something had taken place. So I was still so exhausted and so tired that I went right back to sleep, amazingly enough. Well, the next morning when I woke up, I walked into the kitchen. I saw my eldest sister was awake. I made some coffee. We had breakfast. My younger sister came over, and we were all kind of sitting around my mom's kitchen table just talking. And I said, something really strange happened to me last night. And they were like, what happened? And I related the whole story to them. And my eldest sister said, oh my God, that's why I didn't want to sleep in that room. I was like, what do you mean that's why you didn't want to sleep in that room? And she's like, I just had this feeling like Mom might come back. And I was like, what? Oh, I got chills again. I got goosebumps. Ooh. Anyways, I was just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I thought you cared about me. I thought that you were letting me sleep in there because I was still having problems with my neck, and that, you were being nice to me. I didn't realize it was because you were afraid to sleep in there. And so we were kind of laughing and joking but in the back of my mind, I never really, I don't know. I just couldn't equate. I couldn't find sense to this. It was just so Twilight Zone. That's all, the only way I can explain it. So as we're sitting there talking about this, all of a sudden, all three of us at the same time, it was almost like this cloud of scent enveloped us right there in the kitchen. And it was a combination of my mother's favorite hairspray, which was that old style Aquanet. She loved to rat her hair up and do it in those, bouffant type of hairdos. And that mixed with her favorite powder, which was Johnson's baby powder. And it was just so strong, like somebody just sprayed it and they were just filled with the scent. It wasn't like a little bit, like maybe a trace scent left over from her in the apartment. It came out of nowhere. It circled around us for a while. That's the only way I can explain it. It felt like it was just like this swirling scent. And then as fast as it arrived, it was gone. Completely gone, not a trace of it. We just sat there and looked at each other in amazement. My mother had only been gone for a little over 48 hours. And she hadn't, because she wanted to be cremated, and the cremation service hadn't even taken place yet. So, I mean, it was just so new. And all three of us were just like looking at each other. We didn't know what to make of this whole situation. And oddly enough, I'm surprised it wasn't the scent of Estee Lauder Beautiful, because that was her favorite cologne, which this will come into play a little bit later. But yeah, we just sat there going, what the heck happened? It was just so bizarre. So now you may be thinking, why would your mother stab you in the bottom of the foot with a push pin? And I would say that's a very good question. As I saw, I don't think it was meant in a malicious way. I think that because it was so new, her death just happened. I kind of have this feeling, my gut makes me think that she might have come back to her apartment and found me sleeping in her bed. And maybe she was confused about the situation. Maybe she was upset about the situation because I knew how bad she wanted to come home. She loved her little, and it was just a cute little apartment she had just fixed so nice, and she loved it so much, and I know she just wanted so bad to come home. And I can understand that. And I kind of feel, I like to think that what happened was she came there, found me sleeping, and tried to wake me up, was unable to do so. And maybe I don't know, I kind of think that maybe she took drastic measures to wake me up, and it certainly did work. But it was just so bizarre. After that, we took care of things, and just so happens that this was the same week that I had that very first Sasquatch experience at Big Basin State Park, because I was there for the week. I got there on the Saturday, and I think I left the following Friday. And Tuesday was the day that we went camping in Big Basin. So it was just a full week of high strangeness. So now, moving forward, thankfully, I never had anything like that happen again. However, I do believe that I have had more visitations from my mom. And this time it was much more pleasant. But it was interesting because this is where the beautiful perfume came into play. So when I moved close to my sister, every time I walked into that building to come visit her, a cloud of beautiful perfume met me at the door. Now, if you know what this perfume smells like, you know that it's a very classic scent. It's a lovely scent, but it needs to be applied sparingly. And that was not my mom's way. She would just, all over and get in the car with you, and you're like, gagging, trying to roll down the window because you couldn't breathe. But and she used to get so mad at me because I'd be like coughing and gagging. So it was kind of funny that she would use that as her way of letting me know she was around. And I always thought it was odd that it was my sister's home. But then I realized that, my sister was the one who had her ashes. So it kind of made sense. But another thing that kind of started happening that was regarding my mother, and at first I did not put it together, but this was actually just over the course of the last year and a half. I would come home from school and I started finding black bobby pins right on my doorstep. And it was so odd because I didn't use black bobby pins. I don't use any bobby pins. And it was just in such a strange place. I thought, how in the world did it get there? You know, you try to reason in your mind that maybe one of the neighbors passing by, but they would have had to been right up on my doorstep, and that just didn't make sense either. And then I kind of like, you know, get rid of it, and then another one would show up. And I thought, then it just started getting really weird. I was like, what is going on? And then I started thinking, because every time I saw that black bobby pin, I would think of my mom. And I thought, she's the only one that I've ever known that has used those. So I didn't say anything to anybody. I wanted to talk to my daughter about it, but I thought, she already thinks I'm nuts. And I don't know if I even want to go there. But she was scheduled to come visit me. This was last year during the spring break. And when I returned home from dropping her off at the airport, I walked in, I put my purse down on the table, and I looked, and right there was a blonde bobby pin. And so I thought, oh, you know, she must have forgot it, left it on, because I knew it wasn't mine. So when we spoke on the phone, I said, hey, you know, I saw that you forgot one of your bobby pins. And I was just like, it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. And she said, oh, no, that's not mine. She goes, I thought it was yours. She goes, I found it in my bag, and I thought you had put it in there thinking it was hers, but it wasn't. And that's when I said, oh. And she said, what do you mean, oh? And I said, that is so weird. And she said, what do you mean? And so I related to her the whole black bobby pin story that I kept finding on my doorstep. And she said, oh, that's freaking me out. And I said, why? She said, because before I packed my bag, she said, I shook it upside down, you know, to make sure there was no, you know, nothing in it. And she said, but the funny thing about it is, she said, the whole time I was packing my bag, I kept thinking about Grandma. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And it's interesting because it started out with the black bobby pins, but this one was blonde, which was strange because my mother went blonde later in life. She was naturally blonde, but she always used to dye her hair dark, and she looked beautiful with dark hair. And she loved to, you know, put it up in these almost like a old-fashioned style hairdo. And she always used bobby pins. But my daughter had only known her since she had gone blonde. So I just thought that was really, really strange. And once I told her, we realized this had to be my mom. So it was just one of those things that, you know, it's an experience that is completely inexplicable. And when it's so closely tied to them and it makes you think about them, it's undeniable. So I'm very curious if this has ever happened to you, and exactly how did it happen. I would love to hear about your story in the comments. So please feel free. And I just also want to thank you so much for letting me tell my story to you and share my experiences. And I'm so thankful to have all y'all as my viewers. And if by chance you haven't yet, please subscribe. It helps my channel so much. It's completely free. And also give it a like while you're there. Plus, once you're subscribed, you can hit that notification bell and never miss out on a single video. So again, I really want to hear from y'all in the comments. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.